Hey, great day, everybody. Welcome back to another incredible episode of the Gale Show. I'm Matthew Britt, coming at you from Ontario, Canada. As always, my good friend, Mr. Gale, would be joining us. He's currently busy in the field or making some kind of magic happen, sharing food forest abundance and helping people grow food. So we're just going to get the show started. And I've got an incredible guest joining us today. A very close friend of Food Forest Abundance, someone that I've had the pleasure of getting to know quite well, actually, over the past probably 6-7 months now, maybe even a little bit longer, actually. And she's now teamed up with us as a new Freedom Farm Academy owner. Erin Esser, welcome to the show. We're extremely grateful to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you a part of the bigger, broader team, one of the early pioneers as a Freedom Farm Academy owner. And what an exciting time it really is to be alive in this new adventure you're going on. So before we dive into any of that stuff, why don't you just let everybody know a little bit about you and how we ended up here today?
Yeah, so that's a big question. But yeah, I'll try to simplify it. So yeah, who I am. I currently live in South Carolina with my 3 kids, and I'm an astrologer. I also do human design. I'm a conscious parenting coach, and really try to help people for a number of years. I've created 3 of my own programs since 2017. And really the whole intention is to lead people back to themselves. And, and that's a kind of a phrase that's being used, right, in certain communities as kind of like this vague thing. But basically it's just coming back to like our own roots, right, of who we are, feeling that level of peace and, within ourselves, and groundedness, and that level of truth of knowing who we are, so that we can operate from that space, because the whole world changes externally when, we operate differently from the truth of who we are. So yeah, and then just, hey, I see Jim coming in. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Erin, how are you? Sorry to jump in late.
Hey, Jim, good to see you, buddy.
Oh, good to see you too. I'm so sorry. I was on with Badass Uncle Sam, and then I lost track of time, so take my apologies.
Totally okay.
Erin was just diving into a little bit about her story.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, from astrology, conscious parenting, human design, all of that, but really before that, I'm from South Dakota originally. And when I lived in South Dakota, I mean, what I'm doing right now with you guys and building this Freedom Farm Academy is really helping to, I look at life as like a bunch of cycles, right? And like, it's very cyclical. And, I went on this whole religion journey and came back to this place of like going through all these steps to come back to who I was, of like, oh, now going through all this and experiencing this, bringing in the awareness of all of the experience. Now, where am I at? And the same thing with the Freedom Farm Academy for myself, because now that I'm in South Carolina, like when I was in South Dakota, I did that. I had chickens. I had a farmer that and he was a Mennonite farmer, amazing. We called him Farmer Larry. And he delivered raw milk, raw butter. I had feed from him that was like soy free, all organic. We did, grass-fed beef, all that stuff. I did everything from scratch. Like I was very, I used the milk, and I mean, would set it out. If I couldn't use it, I would use it for whey and for just making curds, but just everything that I used. And it was very much like, I feel like I'm coming back to that space now, like with this, but because of all of the things I've experienced since then, right, over the last 10 years, coming into a more grounded way that where I know why I'm doing it. Like there's a deeper intention within it. And then even just starting this permaculture design certification class through Verge, just all the principles of permaculture. I'm like, oh yeah, like, just all these things where I'm like, oh yeah, I can see in my life where, I'm already kind of doing that, like naturally. I think they're just natural, but then it brings in that awareness where we're like, oh, how can I even be more intentional too, like with this now too. So anyway, that's, yeah, I do a little bit of a lot of stuff. So But yeah.
That's awesome, Erin. And I know what that process you were describing sounds very familiar to me. It's just asking a lot of new questions, especially with everything going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
It's like time for new questions, which new questions create new answers.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that about questions, because I always tell my kids, I'm like, the quality of our life is really dictated by the quality of questions that we ask ourselves and the people that we surround ourselves with, right? And then if we're not around quality people, then it's an opportunity for another question to get answered. Like, why? What's going on here within me that, I'm, whatever it is. So, and just getting curious, really getting curious is the key. So,
yeah.
It's so simple, right? Questions lead to answers.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, they lead to awareness. And sometimes we don't even have to answer them. Like I tell my clients a lot, I'm like, ask open-ended questions and then pay attention to how life's answering them for you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just went on, a friend of mine who he's got some amazing things to share. And I don't want to spill the beans on this yet. It's a big deal. But one of the things that I can share is he went on Chat GPT. It's a lot of stuff going on around that. But anyway, with this one particular thing, he went in there and asked the question, something about writing a declaration, an amendment that would speak to making it not lawful for anybody to stop anybody else from growing food. Right? And it was so well done. The answer, who I then sent to Dr. Benny Anguera he was on the Supreme Court of the Philippines or of Puerto Rico and all these other things. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So there's anyway, back to the questions. Let's start asking that question. How do we catalyze a shift that leads to mass adoption of what you're doing, Erin? That's demonstrating freedom.
Absolutely. And it's, one of the things too, it's like, I feel, I was in a conversation the other day with a really good friend of mine, and, and the feeling of overwhelm can get so great, right? She's like, oh my gosh, there's just so much though, like going on. And it's like, yeah, but then we have to bring it back, because I feel like overwhelmed. Whenever I've felt overwhelmed, one of my beliefs that I've had to really overcome is that I'm not competent, right? I'm not competent and this level of competency, or that I'm not enough, right? And I feel that overwhelm is a really good opportunity for us to, again, ask that question of like, what's going on with me that I feel this overwhelm, that I have to solve this big issue? Because in a way, it's resistance to even wanting to move into the small things that actually create and can be a catalyst for the big things, and I've had to go through that process myself, where it's like, I start here. I start right now in this moment. I start today. I start with just like learning how to grow one thing, whatever, or, just with my kids, right? Like planting that seed within your children, and then it breeds out into the community, and then even bigger, but we don't have to worry about those big things. And that was such a huge relief for me. But I think a lot of people get stuck in that. And I think it goes back to that belief though, of inherently like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm not competent. Right. Because that challenges our competency. It's like, oh, wait, but what if I can do this? And what if I know I'll figure it out when it comes my way? That's been a huge journey for me.
And you put the finger on something so poignantly, the now. Everything starts now. Yeah. The past is only relevant if we make it relevant. The habits are only continuous habits if we start now and continue with those habits. Right? So bringing everything back to this present moment, intensely present. And when we're intensely present and the programs are not in our heads, right, which is intense presence, there's no thoughts, then that creates a gap in our thinking. And the gap is where all the good stuff is.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And that takes courage, right? Like your two words, courage and bravery, right? It does, to be in that spot, because we get attached to all the thoughts. We get attached to the fears, right? We get attached to the emotions that surround all that stuff. And so we have to look at all of that too, to be in that gap space that you're talking about. So I love that.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Oh my word. Yeah. That we're not even aware of half the time, right? Until we choose to truly become aware, until we want to see it, right? When we want to see it truly, then we will see it. But yeah.
And you just nailed another one. Like originally, this idea of courage. If I had the choice to stay in the past or go into the future in the present, it would be way more courageous for me to stay in the past because it's uncomfortable and horrible. Right? So the present, and you said choice, like that word choice, once we become aware of relevant choices, then we always choose the best choice based on our awareness. And so then that's the key, is to create awareness of choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the choice to be free and abundant and healthy and joyful. When people become aware that they can be this way and live this way without fear or scarcity, then they will choose it. But most people simply aren't even aware that they can choose this.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why, I started diving into even astrology and human design, years ago when I did, because and how I, there's different ways to approach, these topics, but how I love it, people can stay in this paradigm of like, this is who I am, right? And use, like, I'm a Taurus, right? For instance, so I'm a Taurus, so I have this, or I use it for limitation. But how I love to use this, and this is what's helped me in my growth process and my clients too. It's like, and even my kids, it's like, okay, I look at where certain placements are and I'm like, oh, this is our challenge. It's the hero's journey through our chart. This is the challenge that we have to overcome in this lifetime. So now, knowing that, bringing awareness to that fact, to that now, when that happens again in your life, how now will you approach this? Because now you can go, oh, I am the hero now in this, and this is supposed to come up. I'm not a victim of this. This is literally supposed to be here so that I can overcome it and then live out my heaven on earth, right? And so, and that's the purpose. That's how I look at a lot of astrology, rather than, going, oh, it's horrible and you have these placements and you're doomed to, like, no. Like, I think sometimes the placements that we have in our chart, like, I don't know if either one of you have done, like, your chart or know it, but like sometimes, like, the most challenging aspects are the ones that have the biggest breakthrough. It's like, so how can we look at it like that, and go, oh, okay, now I am a warrior. But I was just in this conversation the other day of, like, a warrior, there's a mature warrior, and that's wherever Mars is in your chart. So whoever's listening, if you want to, it's like the immaturity. And so it's like the immature warrior brings out their sword and fights everything because they think everything is a battle, right? Everything is a fight, right? And we all go through that at times, right? Until we're like, oh, wait a second, is this even something that I need to put my energy on, right? But the mature warrior is like, I know I have my sword on me, right? I have it, but I know when to take it out, and I know when to use it. And because they only use their energy in a very, very, like, wise way, they know how to use the greatest, which is actually permaculture principle too, right? I think it's number 2, isn't it? I can't remember, but like number 2 or 3. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, all of this, it's all life, and it's just, how do we harness the greatest amount of energy and use that in that moment, rather than
do the Tao now.
What's that?
Do the Tao.
Yeah. Yep. Reminds me of Wayne Dyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly where that's from.
Yep. I love
Change
Wayne
your
Dyer.
thoughts, change your life.
Yep.
And when we look back on our lives, when I look back, I look at the times where they were the most trying, the most suffering, the most dis-eased, and those are always the biggest learnings. It's just a matter of, and this can happen immediately. It's like the question, what's great about this? If it's something completely horrible, or what can I learn from this? Or, what's the truth of this, or whatever? And keep asking in ways till we get empowered, right? When the answer finally comes, that's an empowered answer, or maybe it comes immediately. Then when we can get in that habit of changing, like you said, the principle, the number 2 principle, according to this particular chart, is catch and store energy.
Yes.
Right. So we can say, okay, what's going on with this energetic system? Catch it, observe it, interact with it, and then let it go, and then it goes exponential.
Yeah, I love that. But you're speaking to something so much bigger too, that I feel like it just hit me when you were talking about, in order to do this, right? In order to look at our challenges, it's really truly about taking responsibility and 100% responsibility for everything. And I feel like it's just bigger than even just growing food and not lawns. This is truly 100% responsibility, because if each person, if we could really understand that that is actually the key, there it'd be done. You know what I mean? Like everything would be over. I mean, it's really in all ways, how can we show up and get out of that victim role, right? That victim mindset in any way, shape, or form, that nothing external has the power over you unless you give it. And this has been, I mean, and I'm saying this like, because I live it too, right? I haven't mastered it. I'm moving through it, right? Like as we all are, but just the awareness of that, so that we can go, oh, how am I showing up in this, possibly like in this victim role where I feel like I can't do this, or I'm putting this on somebody else or something else, or whatnot, where I'm putting my own contentment, I'm putting my own joy or everything on something else, when it literally comes from everything here. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's all about responsibility. That's it.
So the question is, where does it start? Or like, how does it start? How does it start in us that it festers throughout our life and keeps us in this place?
That's a really good question. I don't know. How did it start for you, Matt?
Like, I don't know. Is it a childhood thing that we begin picking up the victim stuff? Does it come through our parents? Does it come through television? Does it come through society in general? Does it happen later in life when we're in school and around other kids? Is that where it starts to show itself? Like, I don't know.
I think it happens in all of those things. And I as a parenting coach, I feel like, and as a parent myself, and obviously being parented, right? So I feel that a lot of it comes from the conditioning that we receive, like an unconscious, where if a parent, right, and I've done this to my children when they were little as well too, where it's like, you're making me so mad. That child gets the message of, oh, I have power over somebody outside of myself. Therefore, somebody has power, right, over me, possibly. I think it's that silent kind of conditioning because of just live, so we learn that in that way, versus, our parent going, ooh, I'm feeling upset right now and angry right now with this behavior. What's going on within me as the parent, right? But, right? Like, so when we get triggered, right, how do we react and respond to that, So
that's gold right there.
Right. And I'm not sure if like it really matters where it comes from. Like, I mean, I think that like it's cool, like to have contemplate it. I feel like it's just realizing like, oh my God, how am I giving away my power to somebody else, period? Whenever we come into that place, if we don't like the way our life looks now in any way, shape, or form, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do to change it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. What am I going to do right now, to change it? And that's where we have to kick our butt. Like,
I can tell you, I have the awareness of it for myself and how I do it. And I get told I have it. Like, I have blind spots. The gym will correct me all the time when I do certain things. And it's great to, and being as aware as I am, I'm still not aware enough. It's a continual process of paying attention to your life.
Absolutely. Well, and you touched on a really positive thing too, of like a powerful thing of like having people around you, right? The quality of your life is like the questions we ask ourselves and the quality of people that we have around us. So having Jim, right, in your life to call you out, right? Like, I have a good friend too. She lives in Greece, but like we have video calls like almost every week, and there's times too where she's like, Erin, like, so I think we need those people to lovingly, help check ourselves, because we love to delude ourselves, right?
Yes, a community of people that are willing to say, you've got a piece of spinach on your teeth, or you've got something going on. This idea about pointing out a speck of dust in the eye while missing the log in your own. I want people to point out the speck of dust in my eye. I'm not worried about the log in their own, right? It's about completely taking that responsibility, because anything other than that is disempowering.
Yeah.
And I love where this conversation is going. It's so profound that we own the circumstances of our lives. And when we're fully adults, then, aware adults, then we will do that, because that's the only way to be free of the whole narrative that somebody else controls me.
And I think that's really that's the movement that this is, that, Food Forest Abundance is, the Freedom Farm Academy is. It's how can we bring back everything, into our own awareness so that we know how to do this or that. When all this happened in 2020, I mean, we're all on the same page with this, but I said to my kids, we were living in Asheville at the time, and in North Carolina, and I said, all right, here's the thing. We need to take inventory of everything that we have put outside of ourselves. And because my son goes to the gym like all the time, like, okay, how can we bring in equipment then so that when these things happen, this is where our weak spots are. Like if we don't know, so we have to bring all these things back in to our own, place so that we know, like, oh, if something falls, that's all right. We got this here. It may not be exactly the same, but at least we can do it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's this whole Freedom Farm Academy. And that was part of the reason for doing it as well too. And having support, like I needed support, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I have the support then that I needed, that I desired to do what I want to do, because we can't do it all on our own, right? We need support. Like you're saying,
community is everything. It's so important. How boring would life be without community?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So what's your process? What stage of the process are you in for transforming your land?
So we have the final design meeting on the 16th, I believe, of May. So next week sometime, I guess it is, or the week, or, about 7-8 days away. So, so that's where we're at, the final design, and we'll go over it, and and then start building after that. As long as everything is good,
That's exciting. When the first plants start going in the ground, it's exciting. But when you get a little bit into it, and when you start seeing the growth and feeling the vibration, the energy, and the birds and the butterflies, it's nonstop joy. You were at Golf's Landing. You should see it since then. I mean, it's amazing how fast things are coming to life.
Well, we're going to be in Florida in a couple weeks, and I'm going to stop by and see. We're not going to be able to stay for a night, but I want to stop by and see. So I'll reach out to you before, but because I want to see the changes for sure. And I'm excited too, because on my property, so I have just under 3 acres, and I have chickens now and a couple ducks. And we're going to get goats as well. But I'm building, what I'm really excited about is there's a huge development that's going in across the way from me that I looked at initially as being a negative thing. I was like, oh, I don't want a development, moving in. Well, then I was like, all right, how can I look at this differently? Like, this is when we decided to stay here, because, we were going to move back to Asheville and do that, and decided to stay here. And I thought, all right, I need to take a look at things differently to, staying here. And so anyway, I got on and I saw their plans of what they're building across the way. And it sounds quite amazing. Like they're going to have these Zen gardens, they're calling them, and these walking paths, and they're restoring this whole plantation that the house is still there, but it just needs restoration. And I mean, it's townhomes, it's apartments, it's homes. They're calling it a destination location. There's a lot going on around here, which I wasn't even aware of, like a lot of development coming in to this area. And so I thought, that's potential there. And so I thought, all right, how can I, build what I want to build here? I mean, not just for my family, but for obviously the community as well too. Right. So we're building 3 different, Airbnb/retreat type of little cabins, and then I wanted a tea house. So we're building a tea house with a little library, those libraries where you can take a book and leave a book.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that in there, and a little sitting area, a couple little sitting areas, on the property. But, with the tea house, it's not just tea, but, coming back from Iceland as well too, I bought some bread from Poland, actually, that just came yesterday. And I want to play with that, because the intention of, I want to bring some of those pieces into my Freedom Farm Academy for people to experience, right? And making those things and having a place where people can come that is different than other places around here in this area. And then they can experience, there'll be a pond, and there'll be the little houses there, and then the food forest, and all of the stuff that they'll be able to experience. And So I'm so excited for that. And I can already see it in my mind's eye when I go outside, and it's just like really exciting. So.
And then you will be so well positioned as the community builds in around you. Now you become a primary demonstration, education site, and you can help them if they want to do the same.
Yes. And I just, there's so much potential. And that's why initially I moved here. I thought, I was in Asheville, right? And this is so common in Asheville, right? I mean, in Asheville is like, you can, it's pretty common to find anybody that understands, permaculture or regenerative, farming or anything like that. Here, not so much, right? And so I'm making connections with some farmers that actually are getting it. The more I talk to them, like I went to a few this weekend. Yeah. And there's this community through Augusta, actually, like it's an online farmers market and in-person farmers market, but they really reach out to like low income people as well too, where like they can order online if they can't get there or if they're disabled and stuff too, and then they deliver even to their home. But all the farmers have gotten together, and it's grass fed, like beef and pastured chicken, and eggs and even plants and a lot of stuff, goat milk soap and stuff like that, honey. But I can't remember what I was going to say. I was going off on a tangent.
The farmers market, the bread, Poland bread. You want to do bread there?
Well, I don't know. So anyway, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I think it's just the community. Oh, I know what I was saying. The people here, like, they need this. Yeah. Like the people in Asheville, not that they don't need it, but it's more common, right? So it's like the people here like need this, and it's like I feel like. And when I moved here, I thought this place is like ripe. Like it's not here yet, but it's ripe for something. And so I'm excited that I'm excited to bring it here. And there's a reporter that did a story on my son when he has his pizza business. And so she said once this goes, she wants to do a story too on the Freedom Farm Academy and stuff too here, on the property. And so I know it's going to get a lot of attention just because it's something completely new for this whole community. So it's going to be really fun. And if it's not fun, I mean, why do it? And it's going to inspire other people to do even just one thing, right? They might just look at something different, and that could change a whole aspect of their life,
Absolutely. Yes.
It's layers of fun.
Yeah. You're going to impact people profoundly by sharing something you're passionate about, but that literally is just living your life.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm outside a lot and I'm just doing my thing. And I'm like, that's all I want to do is just be outside now. Like, I don't, I'm even at the point where I'm like, I don't even really want to do readings anymore. Or like, I even took everything off my website right now because I'm just like, I've been really practicing these last probably 4 months or so. My dad passed away last August. And I gave myself a year to just really sit with everything and grieve and just, go through a lot of just the cycle, right, of life and death and whatnot, and how that's impacting me and stuff too. And I've been really practicing. I'm not going to do it if I'm not lit up by it, right? And in human design, I'm a manifesting generator is what it's called. And so it's like sacral. It's like when you feel that in you, it's like, yes. It's like you don't even think about it. It completely bypasses your mind, and you're like, your body responds even more than, your mind can. It's like, yes, I want to do that. No, I don't want it. I'm not going to do that right now, and trusting that there's truth in that, wherever that leads, and that it will keep opening doors, for me to respond to different things. And so, and I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I can do that, because I know not a lot of people can do that. And so I recognize that as well too, that I'm very grateful that I can be in that space to just honor my yeses and my nos, so.
And look, I'm looking behind you at your land. It looks so beautiful.
Yeah, this is my back area where you can see there's the chickens and the ducks are right back here. I don't know. Yeah, you can see them back here. I'm going to be getting a farmer that I've gotten to know a little bit in Aiken, South Carolina, so just down the road from me. His son makes the tractors, so I'm going to get one of those from him as well too, so that because because man, chickens do a number on the right. So
Yeah.
I want to be able to move them around and stuff too. And so I'm excited about that as well too. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And I love it. Like, I love it. Like, as far as like just keeping it up, And so, but I love it. There's nothing, honestly, like when I'm out and about and doing my thing, at the end of the day, like last night, I had to like I'm like, I have got to go inside now. Cause I could feel, I was like, all right, I'm getting kind of tired. Like, I got to go inside. But there's nothing better than just feeling that sense of satisfaction, truly, truly like satisfied at the end of the day of like, I love being tired just in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. In fact, let's explore that a little bit. So when you say it's a lot of work, how long does it take? How many chickens do you have? How long does it take to maintain how many chickens?
Oh, the chickens are easy. I mean, but I have 13 chickens right now and 2 ducks.
Yeah. And how long does it take a day or a week? Do you have to do something every day? Like, do you feed them every day or every other day, or how does that go?
So I have 5-gallon buckets that I had a bunch in my garage anyway. And so I made these little feeder things that, so I don't have to fill it up every day. And then the water things as well too. So I have 2 feeders in there, 5-gallon buckets each, and then same thing for a water. And then I go out in the morning, let them out. They're ready to come out, right? It's like they're letting me know, like, come on. And then I just fill up the ducks pool, which we're going to be building a pond for them. So that'll be nice. So I fill up the ducks pool right now. And then just make sure, I just check in, make sure that they have, enough, food every couple of days or so, just to make sure. And then that's pretty much it.
Because I love getting down to the return on energy invested. So you're talking about minutes a day to get a dozen eggs or however many eggs you get a day.
Yeah. And so right now they're not laying yet because we just got them a couple months ago. But but once, when we had chickens in South Dakota, people were like, oh, how hard is it? I was like, do you have a dog? They're like, yeah. I'm like, it's easier than your dog.
Yeah, there you go. And the return, I mean, at $10 a dozen or $8 a dozen, that's an incredible, and that's just cash value, let alone they're going to be healthier and you've got your food supply right in your backyard. Okay, so what other things do you do in your current garden or your current yard that you were saying?
Yeah, so it's just like we have a lot of trees, like so many trees. And I had a guy that we cleared out some of them, but keeping those back because I'm amazed. Nature, that's one of the things nature's taught me. Nature will not die ever. Like we won't ever die. Like there's no end because it will fight to come back. Like it will, no matter what you do to it. So yeah, we have bamboo, some black bamboo that I realize like just little things that like I have to like cut back and stuff, and just maintain. And let's see.
How many times a week or a month or a year do you think you have to do the type of day you put in yesterday? That was you're happy, tired at the end of the day.
Yeah. Not that many. It's just this time of year right now. It's just kind of like, from getting through the spring and stuff, I'm like realizing like, oh, overgrowth from the winter and stuff and like cutting back things and cleaning things up. I hire a guy to come out and do some of my front stuff because I'm like, no, there's some things that I'm like, what do I enjoy doing? Like what I was saying, right? Like I enjoy doing all this stuff, even though I say it's a lot of work. I actually enjoy it. But there's some things where I'm like, I don't want to do. So I'm going to hire somebody to do it, and delegate it, so, or have my kids, ask them to do some of the things or whatever as well too. So, but that's what I'm excited about with everything being built, right? How much it's all going to take care of the next, it's a closed, it's like, this is going to take care of the next and the next and the next and the next and the next. Years ago when I lived in South Dakota, Joel Salatin, like I watched like Food Inc. and all that, right? And he's in all those documentaries. And he was such an inspiration where I ended up getting some of his books and stuff too. And I thought, this makes so much sense, like so much sense. And even in South Dakota, I wanted to do something similar to like, just, I didn't know, but I knew I wanted to do something. And this was years ago, And so, so I know it can be so much, I know it can be set up where it doesn't have to be a lot of work, right? Where that is, I think even a belief that maybe we get ingrained with, right?
Yeah.
Like over our life of like, oh, to have something
Exactly.
beneficial, it's hard.
That's why I wanted to explore it, because when people hear it, it confirms what they believe to be true, but yet they have no idea what that really means.
Yeah.
So like we've got the chickens, the same thing. It's minutes a day and not every day, and then especially with automated watering and feeding and stuff like that. Our sprinklers are all on automated timers, so there's nothing there. The main food forest, which went in the ground 13 months ago, there's only one thing we've done once or twice in the last 13 months, and that's trim the edge of the pathway, because the perennial peanut is growing into the pathway, which eventually I'm going to let completely grow into the pathway, because I'd rather walk on perennial peanut than the pathway. It feels good on the feet, especially barefoot.
Okay.
So the main food forest, which produces a massive amount of food, has been zero maintenance in 13 months. Wow. And harvesting and maintenance are two very different things, because harvesting is like treasure hunting. You got to harvest anyway. Normally people go to work and they make money, and then they get home, then they drive to the store and they use the money they made at work to the store to harvest from the grocery store. Yeah. Right? The time and energy involved in that is significant, where when you walk outside in a food forest and you're just harvesting like that, it's a major time savings relative to that other way.
Sure. And more fun, right? As the pride of like, awesome. I grew this myself, right? Like
yeah, right. It's so cool.
With no poison.
Right. No poison. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, last February, so a little over a year ago, we've just lived here for about a year and a half now. And so February of last year, I planted some bare root raspberries and strawberries. And part of it is because I have memories of going to my grandparents in Minnesota every summer growing up, Alexandria, Minnesota, and they lived right on the lake. And they had a couple acres, and my grandmother loved to garden. And we would, oh my God, my brother and I would pick tons and tons of raspberries, and she'd make raspberry jam and all this stuff. And so anyway, it was just memories, right? I'm like, I want to plant strawberries and raspberries, like one of the first things. And over the winter, they didn't do much at all last year, which I expected. Over the winter though, I was like, and I even did a little video on it one day, and I'm like, I haven't done anything to this. And I have fruit growing. And like, even this morning I went to observe, and even the raspberries are starting to like flower now and come in. And my son, even too, he's 14, Phineas, he's like, oh, we have flowers growing on the raspberries now. And I'm like, I know. And it's so fun to see that. Like, I walked through before this, in my class, we have to have a final project where we come up with a design for an area. And so I picked out already like the couple small areas that I wanted to do on my property. And so I'm like, all right. So I just started observing last night, and I went out this morning and I like picked these strawberries, and like I had this little plate of like, some salami and stuff like that. But I was like, ooh, I'm adding these strawberries too. And I was like, it was such a satisfying thing. Like I just literally just picked these, and how nutritious is that too, right? Like all the vitamins and minerals are like right there. And and I was able to just sit down on my little front bench and observe, a little area that I want to design. And anyway, it was just, it's
awesome.
It's fun. So I'm excited to get this really, just to really cultivate it and to build it. And it's for the future too. It's like, that's the thing. I feel like this is like, it reaches people when it's like, what kind of legacy, right? Like, I know with my kids getting older, I have an 18, 17, and 14-year-old, and it's like, okay, one of them is already out of the house. The other one's going to be out of the house, at some point soon. He's already graduated as well. And it's like, okay, what do I want? And what do I want to do? And what do I want to leave also too? That footprint, right? We talk about that in our class. It's like, it's not about not leaving a carbon footprint. It's about what kind of footprint are we leaving,
Exactly.
Right.
And the other thing is too, you create this paradise, and as grandkids come and all that, they're going to want to be at your place, because it'll be raspberries and strawberries and blueberries and blackberries and everything else.
Yes. Absolutely.
And chickens and all that. Yeah.
Goats and I want to get the property next to me as well too. Our house, our neighbor's house burned down and a little over a year ago, and it's just been sitting there, and it's kind of not a great sight right now, as far as just because all the debris is still there. But I was walking by there yesterday, and I just caught this whole vision. I was like, oh my gosh, like I really, really wanted to get this property. Like I hadn't really seen it the way that I'd seen it yet until yesterday. And so I thought, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing for the school and stuff too, and just a cow or a couple cows, like, cause that's really, I want to do all that.
Yeah, we just got connected to Helios Farms, and Theo and Kira, they've built an incredible model around a cow.
Really?
And raw milk and the business. Yeah, it's incredible what they've done as well. So something cool lining up there if you're able to get that other piece of property and want to integrate the livestock in that way.
I would love to do that. So, and I'm just like
Helios
putting it out there,
Farms.
I'm like sitting with it, envisioning it.
I remember you telling me about that piece. Weren't you talking to the owner or
So I was talking to the sheriff.
the sheriff? That's what it was.
Yeah, the sheriff. And so I don't know what's happened since then. I haven't been in communication with him for a while now. But there's been no activity next door at all. And I mean, so I don't know. I know it may go up for auction. If it does, it won't be until this summer, or no, fall. I think it is like October or November. But I'm gonna try to dig into that a little bit and just keep holding, the vision for it, because that would be nice. And it would be like 6 acres almost. And it'd be definitely enough room for, especially, strategically doing everything to be able to have some of those things.
Do you know the owners?
No, I met them once the day that their house burned down. I met
Oh,
her.
wow.
She was at the end of my driveway. And
Do you remember her name?
I don't, but
Oh.
because the house was still in her mom's name. Her mom passed away like a few years back. It was a mess. Like, I won't go into it all, but it was a mess. She's had her kids taken away from her. Um, uh, she's made choices that haven't been the best for her, and it's pretty sad situation. But so right now it's just sitting there. But anyway, it's
It's an opportunity.
It is an opportunity. Yes, absolutely. So,
Yeah, ask better questions. How do we get this?
yes, exactly. So, I've been working with Evan, the soil guy, right? And it's funny, we've had a couple really great conversations around like the soil, right? And doing all this in connection to even our own like personal growth, right? Of like how even, he's talking about like, humus, and just how like that's not necessarily like fertilizer, but it like holds the soil. So you can correct me if I'm the terminology, so that the nutrients stay, right? Like can be held, right? And just all these things. And I'm like, there's so many parallels to like our own brain, our own personal development, our own inner growth, it's like as within, so without. And I just feel like that's why it's like, this is so much more than just growing food. That is a component of it, but it's so deep. It's so much deeper than that.
It is. It's growing freedom. It's all of it. It's literally being the transition, demonstrating the transition from a world of fear and scarcity to a world of love and abundance.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to the present.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It like transports you there instantaneously as you get working on that stuff.
Yeah.
It does, because you have to be there, right? Like even when I'm observing a couple of the spaces, I'm like, okay, like I'm paying attention to myself of how much I want to like not pay attention to the space, right? And like not observe and like, okay, whoa, what's trying to get in the way? What thoughts am I thinking about that's getting in the way of me just being here right now with what's going on, So yeah.
So you started the conversation today about helping people journey inside themselves. Do you find that nature helps you journey inside yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it something you encourage the people you work with to do as well?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, it's just, I think that you know, like when I'm out too, I'm like, I'm newer at this as far as like doing a lot of these things. And so I'm like, oh, it's going to be hard. Right. I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, or it's going to be a challenge. It's like, oh, okay, but I'm going to be able to meet that challenge. I just don't know the information yet. I just have to know the information and experience it. And with that experience comes the wisdom. Right. And so, and I think it's the same thing even with us too. It's like the more we go into those places within ourselves that we haven't discovered yet, we're like, oh, and we get braver of holding space for ourselves and having that compassion and whatnot. And I feel like because there's such a parallel between our own self-growth and like it, I feel like, I think maybe that's why I love being outside and doing because it's teaching me more about myself, right? Like it is the greatest teacher because it's like everything that we encounter for like, it's a challenge. Like, like, why don't I think that I can do this right now? What's going on within me that is like, I want to give up or I want to, whatever, or maybe I do need to like turn the corner and not do this anymore, but getting more self-aware. I feel like nature has allowed me to be more self-aware of myself, and like sharing that with other people as well too. I mean, honestly, like this is all I really want to do now at this point. Like, I just want to like share this, and I'm having a meeting with Tim actually on Friday. And so we're going to be talking about that as well too, because I want everybody to be able to do at least some component, of this, whether it's just growing in a little, if they have an apartment, right? Like a little container garden, I don't know, anything. I think anytime we face a challenge of like thinking we can't do something and we do it, oh my gosh, it opens the door to a whole new world for us of like, if I can do this, what else can I do? And that's the process, that I want to encourage people to do for themselves, because if they just do one little thing, right? We're all at different places in our journey, right? Some people are like, oh, I can do the whole thing, right? Or I can do that, the entire thing. I know I can because I have this experience of challenging myself. Some people are like, I'm scared to just grow a tomato, right? All right. So now face that and learn about it. Watch a couple YouTube videos. There's so much free information out there, and now go experience it. And then if it dies, okay, take notes, pay attention to what you did or didn't do, and then do it again. Like, I think people have this idea too, and I did too, of like, oh, growing food is like, like some people are like, I'm having a hard time doing it. It's like, okay, it's just experiencing it. Like it's just an experience, right? And it's paying attention to it. And there's times where I've neglected my plants before. I'm like, oh, what is this mirroring? What parts of myself too am I neglecting possibly that I'm not tending to? There's just so many parallels. So
there are, and I like to share with everybody that I've never grown food in my life. I don't grow the food. We put it in the ground. We build the big home. We design an incredible home for the food, and then we plant the plant, and then it grows itself. Right?
I love that.
Yeah, and like our food forest, I've completely neglected it other than love, just not effort. I haven't done anything other than just walk around in awe and in admiration and love, and it's crushing it. It's growing like crazy, right? So,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that takes away to our, level of like, wait a minute, as long as I create the right environment, it will grow, right? I think that's really what it is about.
Like a home. You create the loving environment that nurtures and helps to, and then it just growth just becomes natural. And
that's the same for us too, as humans, right? Like within ourselves and in our immediate, home, it all mirrors back, to it. It's all just this beautiful, like, reflection.
It's so cool. So do you have any websites, or is there anything you'd like people to know about how to find you, where to find you, what your mission is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook, just Erin Esser. I'm on Instagram, Erin Elizabeth Esser. I'm not on Instagram as much. And my website, erinesser.com. People can message me through there if they want to, or if they want to learn how to, do their own, food forest or anything like that, or astrology questions, human design questions, anything like that. Just aware parenting, all that kind of stuff that I love to do. So.
And your location again, your general?
I'm in South Carolina, on the border of like Georgia, South Carolina. So we're in the low country.
Yeah.
Lower.
Good climate. Yep.
It's hot. It's humid and hot. Yep. It's going to get up to 90 today. I'm sure it might be similar where you are too.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Erin, can people come to you to do their human design and learn all about that?
Yeah, so they would just need to contact me. I do everything pretty much virtually because I have clients all over the place, so so I do it, everything pretty much online. So wherever they're located, they can do that. And it's just a great way for people to understand their journey in this lifetime and realize that they're not in a box, that they're not destined to be who they think they are right now, but there is the ability to see themselves in how they're truly designed. But we have challenges in our chart that are not meant to keep us stuck, but so that we can move through them. And when we have awareness over what they are, the whole game, the game changes, because then we approach life differently. I had a client years ago when I started really incorporating human design and stuff. And she's like, well, what's my homework this week? And I'm like, life. Pay attention now to how life's showing up and how you react or respond to it. That's your education.
That is the ultimate. That is a fantastic suggestion and teaching. Is what's your thing? Pay attention to now, right? And then act from the deep awareness of now.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Do Absolutely. The Tao now.
Do the Tao now. He was a great teacher.
And he just repeats it so often in the book, right? So it's just getting ingrained in you. Programming. It's wonderful.
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
Reminder.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Erin. I'm so glad that we connected and that we're collaborating and bringing these solutions to as many people as we possibly can.
I'm so grateful for you guys and just the level of integrity that you guys all have in the organization, of Food Forest Abundance, and just your passion and the drive and intention. And there's honestly no other organization that I feel as safe with and to partner with, and to know that I'm in good hands and that there's just amazing people that have surrounded you guys and that have just locked arms and walking this walk. And there'll be more and more and more, the more people that do this. And I'm just super, super grateful. And I'm so excited to be a part of this mission and to be doing it with you guys. Truly. I'm so grateful.
Well, it's together that we overcome all this craziness. And that's why we're doing it so different. We don't have any patents, any NDAs, no non-competes, none of that stuff, because in a world of true voluntarism where you get value for creating value, that's what we're demonstrating. We don't need any hooks. We don't need any long contracts that tell us what you can or can't do. We're simply based in the permaculture ethics, and they're already laid out. We didn't even have to design them. It's already right there.
Right there. Well, and I think that's the thing. And there is true transparency, and there's just honesty and integrity, and you're just walking it and you're doing it, and people see that, and I see it. And I'm super grateful for you guys and doing this. So thank you for being.
And I think you deserve some acknowledgement too, being one of the pioneers in the Freedom Farm Academy. You have taken that courageous leap of faith. You believed and you took action on something you believed in. So I want to throw that acknowledgement back to you, Erin, for what you're doing. And I'm so thrilled that you're a part of this with us and what's going to come to life in your community because of your action.
Me too. That's awesome. So excited.
All right. Well, thank you, my friend. Amazing days. So we're getting the word out exponentially, and it's still just the start. We got so much fun work to do.
It's just the beginning. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day. And it's spring. It's time to start planting seeds.
Get out and planting. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.
At Weston A. Price Foundation, we're dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense, farm-fresh foods to the human diet. We look to ancient food and health practices for clues on how to live our healthiest, most vibrant lives today. Join the mission and check out our exclusive membership details at westinaprice.org. As a member, you'll receive our quarterly journal on wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts, our annual shopping guide, monthly access to private Q&A sessions with experts, consultations on state laws, regulations, and policies, including food freedom legislation, and so much more. Weston A. Price Foundation. Let's return to wise traditional foods.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us again on another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show. And before we hop off here, just wanted to share again, we've got our strategy sessions with a permaculture designer where you can really dive in and learn about what permaculture can do for you and your property and how it can help you grow an abundance of food. Really, no matter the size of your property, you can grow things there. Maybe that full abundance changes. But overall, there's some powerful magic when it comes to working with nature. And we've got incredible resources for you to do so. So head over to foodforestabundance.com, get yourself booked for a 30-minute strategy session with a permaculture designer. Learn about the value of a design and bringing a food forest to life on your property. And get started today. Let's get growing some food. So thank you again for tuning in to another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show. We're so thankful to have you all here and look forward to seeing you again real soon. Tomorrow, we've got a couple guests coming on the show tomorrow, including our friend Mark St. Ange from Humagenics, and who works very closely with Pat Militich from Soil Savior. And we also have Dr. Russ Jones. He is a chiropractor, healer, and actually Bigfoot researcher. That's going to be another cool episode. So both of them are coming up tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.